What's up, guys? Mikey McNuggets coming at you 11:45 on a Sunday morning. And in the immediate aftermath of the Shedeur Sanders trade yesterday, we hopped on here. We did an immediate reaction live stream. And in the moment, it's hard to put together all your thoughts in a cohesive manner because you have news breaking in real time. You have new information coming in. You haven't heard from Shedeur. You haven't heard from the Browns. And you're trying to piece it all together in real time. And I thought we did a good job breaking down what happened, why it happened, and all the things involving the Shedeur Sanders selection yesterday on that immediate live post-reaction stream. And then G. Bush did another one later in the day and covered it as well. But I know tomorrow on UCSS, we have 4 guys on the show. We will have more Shedeur Sanders coverage and overall draft coverage and Cavs coverage. We have Joe Thomas on the show tomorrow. So we'll get on into all of it. But I know with 4 guys on the show and Jay and Bull and Jason and G, I'm not going to get a chance to talk tomorrow. So I wanted just to come back on here, spend 10 minutes real quick. I wrote down my whole thought process behind the Shedeur Sanders selection and why I think it's actually, in a way, it's a weird pick, but it's a no-brainer for the Browns. And it makes perfect sense when you put it into a different context than the way I initially saw the draft selection last night. So I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. 10 minutes, this will be quick. And then tomorrow you'll hear from Bull and G and Jason and Jay on the selection, what they thought, but with those 4 on the panel, I would not get a word in. So I wanted to do this and get my thoughts out. But first and foremost, I think there's a lot of context that goes into this pick, and a lot of things can be true all at the same time. I think first and foremost, it is important to mention that the Browns passed on Shedeur Sanders multiple times before selecting him in the 6th round. The Browns drafted a quarterback in Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round before they even considered taking Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. Maybe they considered him at 94, but before they felt comfortable taking him, they took Dillon Gabriel. That says something to me, that for whatever role they envisioned that rookie quarterback playing this season, they thought Dillon Gabriel was more ready to play and a better fit for that specific role than Shedeur Sanders was. Maybe they had a higher grade on Dillon Gabriel. The consensus around mock draft and draft experts was Shedeur is a better prospect than Dillon Gabriel, but maybe that's not how the Browns saw it. And they made some other best player available picks where they clearly identified their guys earlier in the draft. And maybe they just said, we love Dillon Gabriel. We think he's perfect for our kind of offense. He fits what Kevin Stefanski wants to do to a T. He's accurate. He's smart. He plays on time. He doesn't turn the football over. A lot of things you could say about Shedeur Sanders as well, but that was Dillon Gabriel's MO. So they chose Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders. Do not make any mistake about that. The Browns, with both available in front of them, decided we are taking a quarterback in the 3rd round. They took Dillon Gabriel. So one of 2 things could be true, and they actually could all be true at the same time. The Browns preferred Gabriel over Sanders, and then maybe the reason, despite having a higher grade on Shedeur, if they were in consensus with the mock draft guys and the draft experts and the draft evaluators, figure that whatever role they had in their mind for this backup quarterback, or for this rookie quarterback, was a better fit with Dillon than it was with Shedeur. And I'm guessing, and I don't have any inside information, I'm just putting the pieces together in real time, that when they drafted Dillon Gabriel, the plan was not to have Dillon Gabriel start from day one. It was to always let Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett battle it out and develop Dillon Gabriel as your long-term backup to whatever quarterback you use your ammo to make sure you get next year. They traded back at a 2, got Mason Graham at 5, and a 2026 first-round picks from Jacksonville, which they could use on any player, but you make that move to get ammunition to move up for a quarterback. Will they take one next year? We don't know. We'll see how it pans out. But the thought process was Dillon Gabriel may be perfect as a long-term backup in the NFL. He's not a threat to whatever impending quarterback we get next season. Shedeur may be. However, despite the fact that while the Browns chose Gabriel over Sanders the first time, and they may have believed, and still to this moment believe, that Dillon Gabriel fits that backup role better, taking Shedeur in the 5th round is a free lottery ticket, guys. It's the 5th round of the NFL draft. Whether you liked, loved, didn't like, or hated Shedeur Sanders, there was not a single evaluator who I trust, and maybe there's one out there in the depths of the internet, who had Shedeur ranked as a top 150 below player. He was a consensus top 30 guy, guys. Mel Kiper had him top 5 on his board. Brugler, McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, top 25. You got a guy who has the tape and the makeup of a day 1 or day 2 at worst pick in the 5th round. I'm not sure if it was Jimmy Haslam's call. to get a second quarterback. I'm not sure if the Browns saw their draft board and said, look at the guys left. We have Shedeur graded significantly higher than any of the other players at other positions left on the board. And when we're talking about the most important position, not just in football, but in all of sports, that is a gamble worth taking 100 out of 100 times. It is a free lottery ticket. And the Browns, let's make no mistake about it, have done a horrific job over the tenure of their recent history and for most of their entire history, evaluating quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks and finding the right guy to be the stable face of the franchise. They haven't had it since Bernie Kosar, since Brian Sipe. Like, it's been a long, long time. They had it a little bit for Baker Mayfield. They decided to move on. I don't want to rehash that. They thought they had it with Deshaun Watson, but they didn't. And now they're still looking for that guy. And in the 5th round, you're taking a swing on a guy with incredible upside. And if you take Shedeur in the 1st round, or if you took Shedeur early in the 2nd round, it would signal to your organization and to your fan base that that's a guy that they truly believed in. And that's a guy that would get multiple opportunities. Didn't work out at first. 2nd round picks, 1st round picks, they get 2nd and 3rd and 4th chances. You see it every year. It happens. Guys taken in the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th round, particularly in the 4th through 7th rounds, they really get one shot to show what they can do. And if it doesn't pan out, the history and the track record of quarterbacks selected that late in the draft is you get one shot. And that's what you get. And then you move on. So if Shedeur doesn't pan out for the Browns, if it doesn't work for a myriad of different reasons, then it's easy to move on from a 5th round pick. There's no expectations. There is no need or desire to force it to work like you would feel like you'd have to with a 1st or a 2nd round pick. Now, Shedeur's coming into a situation here. And this is kind of why, big picture, I love it. A, he fits Stefanski's offense to a T. We had Todd McShay on the show, and he talked about what would be the ideal fit in the NFL for Shedeur Sanders. He said it's Kevin Stefanski's offense. Why? Because he's a quick processor. He's smart at the line of scrimmage. He's accurate with the football. Those are all things that Kevin Stefanski has told us that he values in a quarterback. And now he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. An extra motivated Shedeur Sanders. Was this draft slide humbling? I don't know. Shedeur didn't have to be humbled. Like, that's not for me to say. But if I was in his shoes and I thought I'd be a top 5 pick, at least a 1st round pick, and I fell to the 5th round, I'd change some of the ways I looked at myself and the way I went about things. And now with that extra motivation, Cleveland's about to get the best version of Shedeur Sanders humanly possible. And if Shedeur is as good as some people think he could be, once again, Mel Kiper had him as one of the 5 best players in this draft, the number 1 quarterback on his board. Most people thought he was worthy of going somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s part of the draft, and the Browns got him 100 picks later. If he is that good, he should be able to beat out a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. And he should be able to beat out Kenny Pickett, a rebound guy from Pittsburgh where it didn't work, who over the course of his career since being a 1st-round pick in 2022 has 15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He should be able to beat out Dillon Gabriel, a guy who was selected over him by the Cleveland Browns. But according to all people who I trust, who evaluate quarterback play, does not have the physical traits to match up with Shedeur Sanders if everything else is working. So yeah, Shedeur's in a great spot here because although he is the 2nd quarterback taken in the draft, he's coming into a situation where he can compete for the starting job. And if he is as good as he thinks he is, and as his father thinks he is, and as some people on Twitter and some draft experts think he is, there's no reason why he shouldn't be competing with Flacco and Pickett for that starting job. And if he's as good, he should play. You don't need to sit him. One of the perks of Shedeur Sanders was he may be the most ready-made NFL quarterback in the class. And the Browns certainly are not tied to either Flacco or Pickett in the same way they are to potentially a rookie quarterback. So yeah, he's going to get every shot in the world to battle it out. And then here's the other part of it. Shedeur may not have the mental makeup to be a backup quarterback. Now, this is actually not necessarily a knock on Shedeur whatsoever, but there is a very clear and evident talent to distraction scale in the NFL. If you are supremely talented and an incredible player, teams will look past off-field issues, character issues, distractions. If you produce on the field on Sundays, nothing else matters. But there was the whole Tebow mania saga that when Tebow wasn't with Denver anymore and he tried to find a new home, the distractions that came with Tim Tebow were not worth what Tim Tebow was bringing on the field. And NFL teams, I'm guessing, this is just my two cents guess, Didn't feel like if Shedeur wasn't going to be the starter, the distractions that come along with Shedeur, his father, the people he's around, the media attention, all of it, which is not any of Shedeur's fault. I want to make it clear. It's not Shedeur's fault. That's just part of being the Sanders family and part of hyping himself up as much as he had in the pre-draft process. If you don't want that distraction coming with the backup quarterback, then he wasn't worth drafting. But in Cleveland, A, he has a chance to start. And B, if you don't foresee him being capable of accepting a backup role if he does not win the starting job, which once again, he certainly can. I'm saying if he does not, then you cut him. You move on. It's a 5th-round pick, and you don't think twice about it. So that's kind of my overarching thoughts here on the Shedeur Sanders situation. He's in a perfect fit. He's going to get a shot to win the starting job. Greg Cosell, the guy who breaks down film better than anyone else, said he had all the intangibles and the mentals to start day one, unlike some of the other quarterbacks that he was being compared to. If he can't handle being a backup, if he doesn't win the starting job, the Browns can move on. But at the end of the day, you're getting a day 1 or 2 talent in day 3. And when you looked at the big board with 143 players off it and all the rest of the guys available, to take the best player available at the most important position in sports for a franchise that hasn't been able to find a quarterback basically ever is a no-brainer. Now, I went through and I looked, just because expectations, I think, are very important for the Shedeur Sanders conversation. Since the year 2000, so in the 21st century, non-first-round quarterbacks to have any semblance of success in the NFL, I pulled the names, and it is not a long list. I counted 13, and maybe I was being too generous on one. But this is back to the year 2000, non-first-round quarterbacks to go on and have a legitimate NFL career, not as a backup, but as like a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. Here's the names. Tom Brady in 2000, Drew Brees, 2001, Matt Schaub, 2004, Colt McCoy in 2010. Does he really fit? I'm not sure. Colt McCoy's the one, maybe I was being too generous. Andy Dalton in 2011, Russell Wilson in 2012, Kirk Cousins in 2012, Geno Smith in 2013, Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo both in 2014, Dak Prescott in 2016, Jalen Hurts in 2020, and Brock Purdy in 2022. That is the entire list. In 24 draft classes since the year 2000, there have been 13 non-first-round quarterbacks that have done anything. And it's probably 12 because Colt McCoy probably doesn't deserve to be on that list. Let's look at some of the 5th-round quarterbacks taken in recent history. In this most recent draft, there were 2 quarterbacks taken in the 5th round, Jordan Travis and Spencer Rattler. 2023, DTR, Sean Clifford, and Jaron Hall. 2022, Bailey Zappi. 2021, no quarterbacks in the 5th round. 2020, Jake Fromm. 2019, Clayton Thorson and Easton Stick. 2018, Mike White. 2017, Nathan Peterman. 2016, Kevin Hogan. 2015, Brett Hundley. 2014, Aaron Murray and A.J. McCarron. 2013, no quarterbacks in the 5th round, neither in 2012. 2011, T.J. Yates, Nathan Enderle. 2010, Jonathan Crompton. Shedeur is a much bigger name than any of those guys. He's probably a much better player and was a more highly graded prospect than all of those guys entering the draft. But that's the company of 5th-round quarterbacks we are dealing with here in terms of their success on the next level. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders can't break that streak. I'm saying let's set realistic expectations for what a 5th-round quarterback can bring to an NFL franchise. Unlike those guys, Shedeur had tape that said he probably should have been drafted higher. He has a much higher ceiling than every single 5th-round quarterback since 2010 I just named. Shedeur has the ability to outshine every name on that list. But he's got to come in, he's got to put the work in, and he has to beat out Flacco and Pickett and Gabriel to get a chance. Because if he doesn't, he's going to have to accept a role that he's never been put in his entire life. A backup. Which is what most 5th-round picks historically at their best case scenario have been. So that's my 2 cents on Shedeur. It was a no-brainer at 144. It's the most important position in sports. It's a free lottery ticket that, if it hits, can change the entire trajectory of the Cleveland Browns. And if it doesn't, it's pretty easy to move on from a 5th-round pick. All those names I just mentioned, when they left their teams, no one blinked. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll have much more Shedeur Sanders and Browns draft coverage tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I appreciate every single one of you guys we have over 1,500 here watching on a Sunday afternoon. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Any super chats real quick? If there are, I got to read them. If not, there aren't. I don't see any super chats, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Once again, I appreciate you. Oh, and last thing real quick. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I tweeted this yesterday. As someone who produces a show in Cleveland and needs things to talk about over the summer, I just want to say thank you to the football gods for blessing us with Shedeur Sanders. This was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to UCSS and for content in Cleveland. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm not going to be a phony. The best thing for UCSS in terms of views is winning. That month in December when Joe Flacco led that 4-game win streak and they beat the Jets on Thursday Night Football, unmatched. After that, quarterbacks moved the needle more than anything else. And now we have the most talked about quarterback, maybe the most talked about backup quarterback, maybe the most talked about 5th-round quarterback pick ever in our backyard. And I just want to say thank you to the football gods for blessing us with that. I'm not a phony. I'll be straight up with you guys. I'll be transparent. Anyone who says otherwise, they're the ones lying to you. But Shedeur Sanders is great for business, and I am very happy to see where this heads. And hopefully it leads to the Browns hitting a home run on Shedeur and then being able to use that extra capital from the Jaguars and their 1st-round pick next year to fill in other holes on the roster. But that's going to wrap it up. I got to run, and I will see you guys tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Cavs are also up 3-0 going for the sweep on Monday. We'll talk about that as well. I'm Mikey McNuggets, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.